I had to run across the parking lot to avoid getting wet, and I could feel my ruined makeup globbing in the corners of my eyes. I was running late because, well, it's me. I'm always running late. When I got there, I saw that she was already there, seated with her hands over her cup of coffee, just waiting for me, not checking her Facebook, not perusing the menu, just sitting. It was written all over her face. In her mind, I could tell that she was pacing. There was something that she wanted to talk to me about. It was clear. So I sat down, got a cup of coffee, sat back, and I said, okay, what's up? And that's all it took. That was the kind of friendship that we had. We'd been friends for years. We didn't have to go through the pretenses of niceties about the weather. We could just be real with each other. And all I needed to say was, okay, what's up? And she was off. My friend was going through a very tumultuous time in her life. She had a lot that she wanted to share with me. She had an on-again, off-again relationship that was going south quickly. The guy that she was with was bad news. Her finances were not where she wanted them to be. She was not getting the kind of hours that she wanted to at work. She was feeling strained with the relationship with her parents and watching that relationship go south as well. I nodded a lot. I sipped my coffee. I just tried to listen and pray, God, give me something to say, because I didn't know what to say. And that's when the conversation got emotional. My friend had some choices ahead of her, choices that I could not imagine. And she had the courage to tell me about that morning. I remember one of the first things I thought was, God, I wish I was smarter. Because an intelligent person would have something smart to say right now, some kind of sage wisdom. And everything that I had ever learned just felt dwarfed by real life. Sometimes the best advice feels so small, it's as if our language hasn't caught up to the way that people can feel in a situation sometimes. So as I'm sitting there, quietly panicking, trying to come up with a couple of sentences of comfort, she says something that hits me like a Mack truck. She says, so I guess God hates me, huh? And that is when everything in that moment changed for me. There was a sudden gravity over the situation that I had not realized before. See, my friend was not a believer, but she knew that I was. Namely, she knew that I was a Christian. And as the name entails, that means I am a follower of Christ, a mini Jesus. The literal Greek translation is to belong to or to be owned by the Anointed One. So if I am who I say I am, then my life is supposed to be a representation of the one that I follow. Who I am in this moment is supposed to be a reflection of the heart and mind of Christ. And it was in that instant that I realized that I had become this unlikely ambassador for Jesus. I didn't know t-shirt and jeans was the going wardrobe for a diplomat, yet here I am, a Jesus representative. And what I say to my friend in the next couple of minutes is going to be added to her growing understanding of who God is and who I think God is. That is so important to what I'm trying to say this morning, I'm going to go ahead and repeat that. What I say to my friend in these next couple of minutes is going to be added to her growing understanding of who God is and who I think God is. That's what I want to hone in on this morning. Whether or not we realize it, whether or not we like it, we have been bestowed a heavy responsibility. And according to our epistle lesson this morning, part of our ambassador qualifications is to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. Piece of cake, right? James even takes it a step further and gives the reason for these credentials. Because anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. There's that hefty responsibility that I'm talking about. If anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires, then my human response can inadvertently get in God's way. It crushed me that my friend thought that she was in a place that God hated her. And that is a lie. It is a lie that this congregation makes a declaration against every Sunday. We stand together at the end of every service and we say, God loves you, we love you. I know I cued you early and you weren't ready, but you got there. Thank you. There is nothing, neither death nor life, angels or demons, past, present, future, power, heights, depths, nothing in this world that can separate you from the love of God. There is nothing that you can do that can somehow make God love you any more or any less than he does right now. And that unconditional love that he extends to you is being extended in just as equal of a portion to the person to your right and the person to your left. Take a look around. You are surrounded by loved people this morning. That unconditional love that is extended to all of us is also extended in equal portion to the people not here this morning, to the people that used to be here that aren't here anymore, to the people that never want to come in here in the first place. Love is extended to all of them. As one of Jesus' unlikely ambassadors, I have been tasked with the challenge of showing this unconditional love to others, while I, Trish Bradley, am a very flawed, very imperfect, very conditionally loving human being. There is a huge difference to reconcile. And a lot of it requires honest reflection. To say, God, am I living every moment of my life as a representation of you? It also requires a lot of forgiveness. Yes, forgiveness from God because of my shortcomings, but forgiveness for myself as well. Because I'm a work in progress and God is not done with me yet. There is also room in that space to offer forgiveness to the people around you, because we are surrounded by works in progress. To recognize that each of us is masterfully created with intention and purpose. My job as a Jesus ambassador is to remind you that you are a work of art. God's handiwork, as Paul puts it in Ephesians. When I was younger, I was really involved in my school's drama club. I had teachers that were very dedicated to making the topic a lot of fun for me, and I have always been a performer. I enjoy being up in front of a crowd. Hello. Acting was always an enjoyable experience for me. You could become anything you wanted, and you were only limited by your imagination. And what my teachers taught me were to hone those skills. So timing, tempo, enunciation, body language, facial expression, stuff like that. One of the first lessons that any would-be actor learns is motivation. In acting, motivation is the reason that you as a character are saying the words that you are saying and doing the things that you are doing. Motivation brings purpose and emotions to the lines that you deliver. It brings 3 dimension to your character. If I'm supposed to say the line, hello, my motivation can drastically change the way that I deliver that line, even though it's one word. I can say, hello. Hello! Hello. Hello. Totally different. My motivation changes the look on my face, my posture, my hand movements, the tone of my voice. So then this is the question. What is my motivation? If I speak in the tongues of men and angels, but I do not have love, I'm but a resounding gong and a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and I can fathom all mysteries and knowledge, if I have the faith that can move mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I have to the poor and I give my body over to hardship, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. Later in the same book, Paul writes, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, do everything in love. Or as John puts it, let us love one another, for God comes from love. Not that we loved God, but that God first loved us. I mean, it makes sense that as Jesus' ambassadors, our motivation would be love, since God is love. That's kind of the point of all of this. This being life. The reason why motivation is so important to find in acting is because once you understand the actions of your character, then you are able to act. When I do something that isn't in character, it's not believable. The audience sees the actor rather than the character that I'm trying to portray. So a good actor knows his or her motivations so that they're aware of what their character would or would not do, and then they act thusly. So if I am an ambassador of God, but something that I do is not motivated by love, I am out of character. I need to fix my act because the audience is definitely going to notice. That is a very challenging role that you and I have been called to play. When we're supposed to be ambassadors of Christ, we are supposed to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, motivated by love. Anybody feel underqualified yet? A final qualification that I want to look at actually took part in one of our conversations during RAMP. For those of you that don't know, we have our youth group, The Grid, and we meet on Sunday nights for a meeting called RAMP. And last month we had a guys-girls night. So the guys went off and did their own thing, the girls went off and did their own thing, and we got to speak candidly, just us girls. And I am blown away by some of the young women that are at this church. So much so that I am going to shamelessly plug them in the middle of my message. If you are a 6th to 12th grader, you should come hang out at RAMP because we have a lot of fun and we learn some really cool stuff. If you are any age over 18, we have a really cool youth group, and we have some really neat kids that are fun and smart and weird and lovely. And if you are still trying to figure out where it is that you can minister at AUMC, I would recommend our youth group because you will be benefited from your ministry there. The kids will be benefited from your ministry there. And I think it's an amazing place full of amazing kiddos. Shameless plug ended. So during my talk with the girls that night, we talked a lot about life stories and where we are on our journey and how we feel like God is trying to intersect into our life story. That's a neat thing to really reflect on. Every single person in this room is in the middle of writing their life story. You might be in different chapters, but that's what we're all doing right now. There is such a deep spiritual connection with that concept of story. We spend so much of our time and energy devoted to it. We read about stories in books, we watch them on TV or in movies, we go to plays, we get on Facebook, we retell stories to our friends of things that we've gone through. We love stories. That's why Jesus spoke in parables. That's why pastors give sermon illustrations. That's why we laugh at the plight of comedians. We cry at the fall of heroes. That's why we click on feel-good stories where puppies and kitties become friends, because we like stories. We connect. We relate to each other through the stories of our shared experiences. Now, like with any good book, there are good guys and there are bad guys. There are protagonists and there are antagonists. There are characters that help the situation and there are characters that hinder it. If I were to give you a moment, I'm sure that you would be able to come up with some people in your life story that have positively impacted you. You have protagonists in your life that have helped you on your journey. And I'm also certain that if I gave you some time to think about it, you could think of some people that tried to get in your way. Naysayers, bullies, some kind of person in competition with you, someone that you didn't believe in, someone that told you that you couldn't do it. Any success that you have had in life is in defiance of those enemies, and you have managed to persevere despite them. In my own life, I can think of a handful of individuals that have encouraged me and inspired me and have sacrificially loved me even when I was not at a place where I loved myself, and I am here today because of them. But there are also those faces that come to mind. Those faces that told me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't capable enough. Hear me this morning. You get to decide which of those sides narrates your life. Furthermore, you get to decide what kind of character you play in the lives of others. You get to decide if you are a protagonist or an antagonist. You get to decide whether the words you say and the deeds that you do build somebody up or tear somebody down. How are you going to play your role? How are you going to act this one out? In the next week, we are going to be presented with opportunities to be ambassadors of God. You might be in business casual. You might be in a khaki and polos. You might be in yoga pants and a sweatshirt that has baby barf on it. You might be in a t-shirt and jeans when you are suddenly called to the front. What are you going to do? How are you going to play that role? What is the part that you are going to be? This is not a task to be taken lightly. This is not a role that you are ever going to play perfectly. You will never have all the answers, just like I didn't have the answers this day. I guess my challenge this morning is to be a bit more reflective in those times when you're called up. When you're called to be a God ambassador, whether or not you realized you were going to be, whether or not you liked it, are you reflecting? Are you stopping and thinking, God, help me to be a little bit more like you? Am I being quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, motivated by love, and working to make a positive difference in this person's life? As we go into these final moments, I just want you guys to know that the altar is open for prayer, reflection, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak this morning, and I hope the words of God got to somebody. Thank you very much.
Our closing hymn this morning goes directly to what Trish